forthwith. I call the Honourable Jonathan Coleman.
I move that the Tariff New Zealand, Hong Kong, China Closer Economic Partnership Agreement Amendment Bill be now read a third time. On behalf of the Minister of Trade, I'm pleased to take this third reading. The bill today received its second reading and underwent the Committee of the Whole House stage earlier today. It amends New Zealand's domestic legislation so that the New Zealand-Hong Kong CEP can be ready to enter into force as soon as the Hong Kong government has completed its internal processes. The Closer Economic Partnership Agreement with Hong Kong is a further achievement in New Zealand's trade agenda. It stands to deliver real benefits to New Zealand businesses by guaranteeing tariff-free entry into the Hong Kong market, securing more certainty of access for our services suppliers, and providing a framework for regulatory cooperation and consultation. It is the first free trade agreement which Hong Kong has signed outside of mainland China. New Zealand has been striving for a trading agreement with Hong Kong for a number of years, including under previous administrations, for several reasons. Firstly, Hong Kong is an important business hub in Asia. Asia is increasingly important to New Zealand as a partner for regional trade integration and as a growing market for our exports. New Zealand's trade with the Asian region grew by 5% in the last 12 months and represents a massive $15 billion in annual export earnings for this country. Secondly, Hong Kong is strategically important as a platform for New Zealand companies and products entering mainland China. This CEP complements our free trade agreement with China signed in April 2008 and already delivering substantial benefits. Together, these two agreements deliver a golden opportunity for New Zealand businesses to launch into or continue to expand into the growing and dynamic Chinese market. New Zealand will be the only country in the world to have trade agreements with both mainland China and Hong Kong. Hong Kong's wealth of experience in doing business with China and its connections to the Chinese and other Asian markets are unrivalled. At the same time, it has a legal system very similar to that of New Zealand and an open, transparent business environment. This makes Hong Kong an excellent location for New Zealand businesses looking to launch into a complex and sometimes daunting Asian market. Hong Kong is a significant market in its own right. It is currently New Zealand's 9th largest export destination. Merchandise trade between our two economies has been growing at an average of 7.5% per year for the past 5 years, and last year was worth almost $1 billion New Zealand dollars. The CEP locks in duty-free access for all New Zealand exports to Hong Kong. This is a significant advantage over other countries for which Hong Kong is able to raise tariffs on 14% of import lines at any time. In return, New Zealand has committed to phase out tariffs on imports from Hong Kong according to a schedule which is identical to the phasing under our FTA with China. The CEP is not just about goods. It also creates improved access for New Zealand service providers to Hong Kong. New Zealand providers will benefit from greater certainty of access into the Hong Kong services market, including private education, business services, environmental services and logistics. This access is also future-proofed under the most favoured nation clause. Any preferential treatment which Hong Kong accords to other trading partners in future agreements in particular sectors will automatically be extended to New Zealand services suppliers. The CEP also extends the benefit of any liberalisation which Hong Kong makes domestically to New Zealand services suppliers in some currently reserved sectors. Under the CEP, New Zealand business people will benefit from faster processing of applications for business visas, and short-term business visitors will be able to get a 90-day visa. Other aspects of the trading environment, such as customs procedures, sanitary and phytosanitary measures, technical barriers to trade, intellectual property, competition and e-commerce, receive comprehensive coverage in the CEP. Alongside the CEP, New Zealand and Hong Kong have also entered into a Memorandum of Understanding on labour cooperation and an environment cooperation agreement. And I would also note that contrary to Mr Russell Norman's assertion that the side agreements on labour and environment are not legally binding, I can confirm that in fact these agreements are legally binding. These agreements complement the content of the trade agreement and reinforce issues of importance to both countries. As part of the negotiations, New Zealand and Hong Kong also agreed to negotiate a comprehensive investment protocol within 2 years of entry into force of the CEP. While it is envisaged that the investment protocol will provide for strengthened disciplines and protections for investors, there is no intention that the protocol would alter the categories of investment which are subject to screening under the Overseas Investment Act. In summary, the CEP with Hong Kong brings about significant advantages for New Zealand. It establishes a clear, certain and effective framework for New Zealand companies to operate in a dynamic and rewarding market. It also complements our groundbreaking FTA with China. In other words, we now have an unparalleled opportunity to increase our exports to a region that will continue to be of central importance to our economy in the short and long terms. I would like to acknowledge the efforts of officials, previous Ministers of Trade and also of the stakeholders that contributed to this excellent outcome. I would also like to acknowledge and thank members of the Foreign Affairs, Defence and Trade Committee for their consideration of the Hong Kong CEP Bill. This bill will amend the 1988 Tariff Act by inserting Hong Kong, China in the list of preferential countries in Note 3 of the tariff. This is the only statutory amendment required to give effect to the CEP. Following this amendment, other amendments by regulation will also be required to enable the application of preferential tariff rates under the CEP. Our prosperity as a nation depends on our ability to trade and invest on the world market. We also depend on robust rules to govern trade and remove barriers so that our traders can compete fairly. These goals, Mr. Speaker, are embodied in the CEP, which will benefit New Zealanders and which is supported by the majority of members of this House. I commend the bill to the House.
The question is the motion be agreed to.